We have a great show ahead for you today. We just heard the latest on Malaysia Flight 370, and in a few minutes, I've got an angle on this still missing plane that no one has talked much about. And I'll be taking a close look at how one of the biggest stories of the week was spun by commentators that just didn't want to believe it. But up first, I feel like I spent all week writing about the revolving door of television. On Thursday, I and all the media reporters like me were caught off guard by David Letterman, who told his equally surprised studio audience that he's going to retire sometime next year.
Sometime in the not too distant future, 2015, for the love of God. Yeah. In fact, Paul and I will be wrapping things up and taking a hike.
Right at that moment, speculation began about who's going to be his late-night successor. There was also lots of talk this week about the future of morning TV. When ABC's top-rated Good Morning America started on Monday morning, one cast member had vanished. You probably heard what happened. The night before, Josh Elliott quit to join arch-rival NBC. But why wasn't he back on the show at all? Well, as one source said to me this week, he's crossing enemy lines. This source called NBC the sworn enemy of ABC. And it's true. GMA and NBC's Today Show have been battling for first-place status for decades. Elliott's move is a big deal. I wrote a book about morning TV last year, and I can't come up with any other example of a co-host of one of those shows immediately moving to the other network. Now, technically, Elliott's only joining NBC Sports, not the Today Show. But every source I have and every person in the industry that follows this stuff thinks he's in line for Matt Lauer's chair on Today. People love these morning shows and late-night shows, too. They almost feel like the hosts are members of their own families. So I wanted to talk to someone with an anchor's eye view on all of this. So I invited Deborah Norville, who once hosted the Today Show and is now the host of Inside Edition. She joins me from New York. Welcome, Deborah.
Thanks, Brian. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. This has been an interesting week, but you know what's kind of funny is it was a big blip on Monday, and of course people are still talking about it, but how much is it going to impact the ratings at Good Morning America? I'll be very interested to see what this past week's numbers are when they come out later this week.
And in the last 2 years or so, GMA has held up remarkably well, no matter what happens. Robin Roberts went away because of her illness. She was away for 6 months, and the show held up. She came back, the show held up. It's been doing well, no matter what happens in the war between these two shows.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I haven't seen anybody comment about in all the reportage that's been going on this past week, and that is we now have 3 network morning shows that are peopled. The majority of the cast are women. And arguably at one of those shows at Good Morning America, I think you could say that the strongest player on the broadcast is in fact a woman. Robin was elevated tremendously through the grace with which she handled her medical challenges. ABC was incredibly sensitive to it, and a lot of people believe the reason for the strength of that program is the way people have seen their challenges played out in a certain way, in the way that Robin and now more recently Amy Robach has dealt with her breast cancer.
And Amy Robach was promoted to replace Josh Elliott as the news anchor on GMA. What do you make of the fact that these shows are so female-centered, maybe female-led right now?
I know you're recently married. My guess is because of what you do, you get to control the clicker, but in most houses in America, that's not how it works. Mom is in charge, particularly in the morning. And the morning programs are almost like the clock by which people's days are set.
Do you think that's changing in an age where people are waking up with their phones, maybe before they wake up with the TV set?
Yeah, they do, and yeah, I think it is, and I think that's one of the reasons maybe it's not as big a story as it might have been 5 years ago, or you know, when Ann Curry left the Today Show. There was a lot more agita, a lot more angst. There were certainly a lot more tears shed when Ann left, and it appeared in that instance that Matt Lauer, rightly or wrongly, a lot of people thought that Matt had something to do with it. In the case of ABC, it appears that Josh thought he was worth more money than ABC was prepared to pay. ABC said, this is our best offer, and we feel very confident that it's a great offer for you. Josh and his team felt otherwise, and he left of his own accord. So it's not a situation where people can say, this guy was being pushed out.
Right.
He made a business decision. NBC made a business decision in bringing him in. And let me ask you a question. Do you think it's a Today Show decision?
Well, you know, you're putting me on the spot here. I don't think Josh Elliott's just going to NBC for NBC Sports. I think Initially, the negotiations were about news and sports. Then they just talked about sports for a while, which makes sense because the Today Show's got to be careful not to appear to be forcing anybody out.
Yeah.
They had that terrible mistake with Ann Curry. Whether they did the right thing or not, they did it the wrong way. So they can't do that again. I think it makes sense to have Josh Elliott come over initially for NBC Sports. But now that he's in the company, he could look at a Today Show job 6 months from now or a year from now or 2 years from now. And that would seem to make the most sense to me.
I think one of the things that's also interesting is you look at ABC and NBC, and they both have a large number of individuals on their show. When I was a part of morning television, there was the host, the co-host, the weather person, and the newsreader. That was it. Now you've got 6, 8, depending on how you want to, tally up the various hours,
right.
people on these broadcasts, as opposed to CBS, which has had tremendous ratings growth with 3 players. They don't even have a weather person. They depend on their local affiliates to provide the weather because, frankly, who cares what it's doing in California if you live in New Hampshire?
Since you've actually been in one of these chairs, you were on the Today Show for a year, then you were unceremoniously dispatched when young Katie Couric took over. What's it feel like to be in that situation when these changes are taking place? What's it actually like behind the scenes?
You'd have to write another book on that one, darling. One of the things I did, Brian, I felt very wounded when I left NBC. And I've used the analogy that, you're standing on the edge of a cliff and there are 10,000 people with bayonets coming your way, and you look over the cliff and it's a river filled with ravenous crocodiles. You have a choice. Do you wait for the bayonet guys or do you jump down to the crocodiles? In my case, I jumped down into the crocodiles and miraculously managed to live. I've never really spoken about what was going on behind the scenes in any detail because you know what? At the end of the day, I have been blessed to have a very long career. This was 23 years ago. I'm still on television. The program I do is the #1 syndicated news magazine in America. I've been able to have this career because I've been judicious about what I've said, and so I will never speak ill of the people who have been my colleagues in the past and may well be my colleagues in the future.
The other big news this week, David Letterman announcing his retirement. Well, how do you react when you heard the news on Thursday?
Well, I was happy for Dave. I mean, my gosh, what an amazing career he's had. And I was a huge fan of his back when he had that very short live show during the daytime at NBC. I was working nights, and I used to watch that show before I went to my very first TV reporting job way back when. I think you look at David Letterman, you look at his career, he is truly one of the innovators in television today. A lot of guys, I think Jimmy Fallon is doing a fantastic show, and perhaps it's the strength of his show now that he's launched that's encouraged Dave to say, you know what, at the end of this contract cycle, let's let the next generation have it.
Who should be the next host of The Late Show?
Well, a lot of the names are coming from the other incubator of innovation in television today, and that's cable TV. Comedy Central's got both Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert, who have been bandied about. I've seen other names out there, as you have as well. You know what? This is when it's fun for people like you. You get to speculate, you get to talk to the folks you know behind the scenes and throw little things out there. And also people who cover the media like you can be very influential in teeing up some of those individuals. So who would you want to tee up, Mr. Stilton?
Well, Chelsea Handler's name came to mind to me because her contract is up at E! At the end of this year. But that would be a pretty risky choice given how controversial she's been and how many fights she got into with E! Then again, David Letterman sometimes got into feuds with CBS, so maybe that would make it fun.
I'd hate to think the decision's being made just on gender. And I say that as a woman. The decision should be made, I think, on who's going to be the person who's right for the kind of show you want. And if they think comedy is what sells at that time of night, and I don't think they're wrong, then they need to find the funniest, most innovative, most watchable, most gee whiz, wow, did you see that? Let me check it out on YouTube kind of person that they can find, because that component, as we've seen with Fallon and with the Jimmys, has been very, very big now in television.
Deborah Norville, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.